Hello and welcome to the 44th edition of the Local Lowdown podcast. My name is Zach Bischoff, and I, as always, am joined by.
Danny Shanelitzer.
There we go. Thank you very much, Danny. How are you doing on this fine afternoon?
Zach, I am doing wonderful. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for asking, Danny. We are going to kick off today by recapping just the state of the Steelers right now. They've clinched a playoff berth, as we all know. What else are we going to talk about? And we're just going to just recap the whole NFL season as a whole here. So, Danny, if you please give me your thoughts on the state of the Steelers as we sit here on this 29th day of December 2024.
Yeah, Zach. Well, it's certainly been a tale of two halves, right? We hear that cliche, and we're like, is that really the case?
Yes, it is.
And sometimes we think that like I think we can overgeneralize. But I think that this season has really been indicative of that saying, because it really has been a tale of two halves for the Steelers. I mean, this is the third time we're sitting here. The Steelers, like you mentioned, Zach, are 10-6, and have clinched the playoff spot. But we started 10-3, and we were like, man, these next 3 games in 11 days are really going to tell us a lot about the Steelers. They're going to really show who the Steelers are and what the Steelers are made of. And well, they have shown that they have the ability and have lost to better football teams. Starting with the Eagles, man. I mean, I think Saquon Barkley, even when he wasn't 100%, he was able to have his way. And AJ Brown on the Eagles went crazy. I think he had 2 touchdown catches. And it really just seems, Zach, that once we hit December, we hit a wall. I was reading Mark Madden, as a local sports writer for the Tribune Review before this, and he pointed out the fact that this is the fourth time in the last 6 years that the Steelers have lost 3 straight games in December. Zach, you want to play your best football in January, and the Steelers have lost 3 games in 11 days, and it has just really been a gut-wrenching ride for Steelers fans, because we want this to be different, but it just feels like it's the same old Steelers who start really hot and then get really cold at the wrong time.
Yes, Danny. So the Steelers here can not be lower than the 6th seed in the NFL playoffs this year. So if we win against the Bengals, we will play the Houston Texans, and if we do not win against the Bengals, we will be playing our favorite Baltimore Ravens for the third time. Danny, let's pick both games here. So I'm going to take, in the Texans case, I'm going to take a Steelers win by a score of 28-21.
I
In
like that, Jack.
the Ravens game, I'm going to take also a Steelers win off of a Justin Tucker doink, and
Nice.
gets ran back for a touchdown one game. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to take the Steelers to win by a field goal by the score of 30-27.
I like those optimistic picks from you, Zach. And here's the thing: I will be optimistic if the Steelers win against the Bengals, especially because we need this momentum heading into uh, the playoffs. Like you mentioned, Zach, we already clinched, but we need some positivity here. I mean, the ending of the Chiefs game was just chaos and pandemonium in the wrong direction for the Steelers. Like we Jalen Warren got in the end zone, on that play, and then it was called back for a holding call, and then we threw an interception in the end zone. Like that sort of those sort of errors can't happen. And I would like to believe that if we can win um, against the Cincinnati Bengals, we can keep riding the wave and respond to adversity in the right way. And so I would agree with you, Zach. I think if we beat the Bengals, um, I think we're gonna beat the Texans. I'm gonna say 28 to so sticking with your point there, Zach. But I'm gonna say 28-14 because I think this defense really, if we can hold Joe Burrow, there's nobody hotter in the league right now than Joe Burrow. If we can hold Joe Burrow in check, and the Bengals got their backs against the wall, they won a playoff spot. If we can hold Joe Burrow in check, then we have the ability to hold anybody in check because he's the hottest quarterback in the league right now. But Zach, if we lose to the Bengals, would be our fourth straight loss in December, which is the opposite of what you want. We, 3 short weeks ago, we were talking about how great this team is in terms of Super Bowl contending, and how great we can be because our defense is tremendous, and the thing about that is Zach, that we said this prematurely because we knew that these 3 game stretch would be the biggest for the Steelers, and so we have to respond in to adversity in the right way. But if we don't do that against the Bengals, then it gives me no confidence that we're going to do that against the Ravens because the Ravens beat us 34-17 a couple weeks ago, and I think they would do this. A similar thing, and it would be another heartbreak. It would probably be 28-24 Ravens, unfortunately. And this is why I'm so glad that we both have the opportunity to vent our frustrations. So thank you for giving us this ability. I think because Pittsburgh fans right now on an NFL Sunday are frustrated because this team has the ability to be so good. Russell Wilson has cooked it, when he first got in. We were rolling. We were rolling. And then we hit a bump in the road. But Zach, we've got to figure out how do we become the team that is stepping over the things that we used to trip over. You know what I'm saying? And right, I think the biggest thing, Zach, and I mean, this is going to be easier said than done, Zach. But we have got to win the turnover battle because that is what's killed us in these last 3 games.
And not even the not even the turnover battle, Daniel. Well, that and the time possession game, I think, is also just as important. Um, and I haven't seen any of the time possession numbers for any of the past 3 games here, but I think the turnover battle and the time possession battle um, are equally as important. Danny, moving on to the rest of the NFL very quickly here. Give me just your thoughts on just any games that stick out to you, any games, storylines, injuries.
Yeah, man. No, for sure. I think it'll be very interesting to see like we were just talking before this podcast, but the Jets and the Bills play, and I think that'll be an interesting game. Now, the good thing about the Steelers is because the Bengals beat the Broncos in overtime, which is a little bit weird because of that kind of reverse help. That was yesterday. Because that happened, the Bengals were victorious 30-24 over the Broncos. The Steelers can't slip lower than the 6th seed, I believe. Now, I think that the biggest thing for the Steelers and just like the games in general. I mean, I really because hopefully we'll see the likes of the Bills and the Chiefs again, coming from the fact that maybe we play them after we do our job and and beat the Texans. Now, I think the biggest thing for the Steelers again is gonna be winning the time possession and turnover battles because what's killed us in the past has been untimely turnovers. So Zach, if we can and here's the thing also that I'm holding on to, right? Is that if we are able to beat the Bengals and the Ravens lose to the Browns, um, on on in on Sunday, January 5th, then we might play the Chargers. Now, I would much rather play the Chargers than any of those teams. I will take the Chargers and Texans over the Ravens for sure. So, I mean, I'm going to be interested. I should do some research in terms of the Chargers and how they're faring. You know, they beat the Patriots 40-7 yesterday, but I think the Patriots aren't a good representation of how the Steelers are going to play because we've shown the ability to beat bad teams, and the Chargers, you know, they're sitting at 10-6, so they're similar to the Steelers, right? But I think that we can exploit some holes in their defense. You know, the Chargers offense led by Justin Herbert, obviously he has the ability to put up points. You know, he put up 40 points against the Patriots. But I think that if we get George Pickens healthy, which hopefully he can be,
which is going to happen. I
yes,
think they already said he's in.
yeah, which I mean that's tremendous. He played on Christmas and he made that one really solid catch that should have sparked the Steelers offense. So if we can um get pressure on Justin Herbert, I think that we can cause turnovers because our defense, and this is the frustration, Zach. Our defense is the highest paid in the NFL, I believe, and also
That is correct.
we we have shown that we can cause havoc, but against the Chiefs, like I mean, we really did not limit the Chiefs when we could have. Now, obviously, when you don't score 10 points, that those things happen. Or when you only score 10 points because of the offense, those things happen, and you can't rely on your defense to hold them to less than 10 points. But my point in saying the formula for the Steelers is going to be production on offense in the playoffs, limiting turnovers. I mean, if you don't turn the ball over, you limit the possessions that teams have, and also Zach, we've got to continue to find ways to get other receivers involved. And I think having Pickens back has helped that. But we still got to get Frymouth even more involved. We got to get Najee Harris going. So the formula is going to be, forcing Justin Herbert or whoever we play, C.J. Stroud into making bad decisions while also taking care of the ball on offense. I think that is going to be the formula for the Steelers going forward in the playoffs because I just really think that we we have the ability, we have the players, but we also we can't expect our offense to go out and score 45 points against the even they've just shown that they're sort of more of a game managing style offense as opposed to a real juggernaut. So I really don't want to get into a shootout against the likes of the Texans or the Chargers or definitely the Ravens because we've seen what happened 2 weeks ago when we did that. They beat us 34-17. So I think that's the formula going forward for the Steelers.
All right, Denny, any final thoughts on this abbreviated edition of the Local Lowdown podcast?
No, man. I mean, it's just about 1 o'clock here, so I'm looking forward to hopefully putting my scouting hat on and just really trying to see how can the Steelers make make a deep run into these playoffs here, man. Because like we were talking again before, it's been 10 years since the Steelers have won a playoff game, and we want to play our best football in January coming up here because that's a pivotal stretch because January is when the playoffs start. So we've had a December slump. Now let's be optimistic. We know we can beat the Bengals because we've done it once before. We know we can beat the Ravens. So even if we lose, we can do it. We just got to execute, Zach. Execution is going to be the name of the game. And I know, Steelers fans, it's really hard right now, but we have time to rest up. We can just relax on this NFL Sunday because we know we got a playoff spot. So my advice to Steelers fans listening to this podcast, whatever happens, keep the faith. We've shown that we can do this, and let's see what happens. Here we go, baby.
All right, Danny, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attendance and your tremendous, tremendous knowledge of sports. Thank you for your service to this podcast. All right, that's going to do it for the 44th edition of the Local Lowdown podcast. Our next episode will likely be a playoff first round. Well, we'll probably preview it once the matchups are set, and then we will kind of go through that. We'll hopefully get our third co-host, Mr. Kevin Hutchinson, back on here. We were supposed to have him on today, but he had to cancel at the last minute. So we will hopefully get him back in here for that NFL playoff preview next time we speak to you. And until then, thank you for listening to this episode of Local Lowdown Podcast, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.